Hello, everyone. Well, first of all, I have to apologize because it's been 2 weeks. I skipped 2 weeks that I was supposed to be doing these lives and reading a chapter of my book, Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. I had made the commitment to do this every noon at Mountain Standard Time every Tuesday. And then I went to a writers' conference in Spain, Sevilla. And then my daughter and my husband joined me there because it happened to be spring break from the Naval Academy. So I skipped 2 full weeks. I thought that I was going to pre-record them and have them air while I was gone, but that didn't happen. So first of all, apologies. But I'm back and I'm going to read a chapter of my book. So if you're new here, my name is Rosa Linda Román, and I did write this book. It's about living on a sailing catamaran with my family. We lived on 2 different boats. The Dawn Treader was the most recent one, a Lagoon 450 sailing catamaran, which you can see right there on the back of this book. That's Dawn Treader. And then we also lived on another boat when 2 of my kids, I had only 2 kids then, were 2 and 4. But now we live on land in New Mexico. So I'm reliving my adventures by reading the book that I published about this. This is a picture on the front of my 3 kids and my dog. We still have that dog, Nala, and these 3 kids, we still have them too, although one of them is off to the Naval Academy. So they're a lot older than they are in this picture. All right, so without further ado, let's get started on this chapter. This is Losing Sight of the Shore, Chapter 8, Water Woes. Human mothers have a natural instinct, a kind of 6th sense, which connects us to our children in invisible, inexplicable ways. You may have experienced this with your own mother when she just knew that you had done something wrong, even though there was no obvious evidence of this fact. It is uncanny, a bit creepy sometimes, and probably the very superpower that has historically helped keep our species alive, despite our children's lack of frontal lobe development. My mom's sense was signaling red alert in the middle of the night last night. I was sound asleep at my Theo's house in the mountains of Lares, Puerto Rico, when I felt it. We are here for Thanksgiving and a double wedding for my cousins, and with all the socializing, air mattresses, and cacophony of coquille singing, I hadn't gotten a good night's sleep in days. I was sleeping hard when I felt a glitch in the matrix and suddenly opened my eyes. There was Ahava standing by my bedside. She hadn't touched me or anything. She was just watching me with a panicked expression on her face. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing," she lied. Something, I knew. I flooded the house. Honestly, I immediately assumed she was just overreacting in that way that only a teenager can, when they think that someone may judge something they did as not cool or embarrassing. Maybe she spilled some water on the floor or something silly like that. Still, I got out of bed, if only to alleviate her fears. As I stepped out of the bedroom and into the hallway, my feet were suddenly in a massive puddle. She actually flooded the house. Apparently, as she showered, she noticed the drain started backing up. This didn't seem like a big deal because the shower wasn't filling up much at all. What she didn't realize was that there was no ledge at the edge of the bath area to contain the water, and the floor slants in the wrong direction. The reason it wasn't collecting in the shower was because it was flowing under the curtain, into the bathroom, under the door, and out toward the rest of the house. "It's in his room," she cried. "What do you mean?" I asked, still in a sleep fog. "The water went under the door into Theo's room, and his door is locked, so I can't get in to dry it." This got me fully awake. As I surveyed the scene, it was obvious she had been trying to fix the problem herself for some time. Every towel in the house was strewn, soaking wet, around the bathroom and hallway. She had used at least 10 full-sized bath towels. It was crazy how much water still covered the floors. Looking at the mess, I couldn't help but think, I guess you didn't take a boat shower. Code for the super short showers you take on a boat to conserve as much water as possible. In the months since we had moved off of the Dawn Treader, I have noticed how lax we've all become in this area as showers have gotten longer and longer, using more and more water. There was no doubt with the amount of water on the floor that she did not take a boat shower. But I knew better than to say any of that to my very stressed out daughter at that moment. Instead, I said, "Well, at least it didn't happen on a boat." "On a boat, there would be a bilge," she said. Ah, my sweet little boat baby. She was absolutely right. On a boat, the water would have drained down into the belly of the boat, where it would have triggered an alarm, which would have turned on this amazing machine called the bilge pump, which automatically pumps any water out of the boat. But we didn't have a bilge in my Tio's house, so we spent the next 2 hours squeezing out towels and sopping up the deluge. The most stressful part was slowly trying to push towels under his door to soak up the water that had gone under it without bumping the door and waking him up. Each towel we pulled out brought with it a little wave of water, proof that there was still a puddle on the other side of the door. We did this over and over again, hoping it would stop. Forget doing the right thing and actually knocking on the door to alert him about the disaster. I was her partner in crime, trying to hide the body. Eventually, we weren't seeing any more water flowing back out of his room, and were optimistic we had gotten it dry enough so as not to horrify our host. So at 2:30 a.m., we went to sleep. Little did we know the floor in that room was still completely flooded. When my Theo woke up, we both heard him proclaim, "What happened here?" Ahava and I rushed to his room to find him wading through water. We just looked at each other with bloodshot, sleep-deprived eyes, and she said, "Mommy, we did absolutely nothing last night." She was right. All that stuffing of towels under the door was the equivalent of sticking our finger in the dam. We got to work cleaning up the rest of the mess, and Ahava apologized to her Tío Abuelo, who was surprisingly calm for someone who had woken up to a flood in his bedroom. After such a waterlogged night, this seems like a good time to write about boat showers and some of the other water issues one faces when living on a boat, which gives us all a new appreciation for the term water conservation. Growing up first in Chicago with Lake Michigan nearby, and then Florida with Lake Okeechobee, I don't remember water ever being a major issue. When we hit the teenage years, my dad would get mad at us if we took too long in the shower, but that was just because he felt that wasting water was a waste of money. It wasn't until I moved to the mountains outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, that I became crazy about water conservation. Our home sits on 75 acres at 7,500 feet altitude, about 30 minutes outside of town. Instead of getting our water from a city or county municipality, we have a water truck that drives up the hill to deliver it. Not only is it inconvenient to rely on water deliveries, it really makes you think twice about running the water while brushing your teeth or washing dishes. New Mexico is a very dry state, and water is a precious commodity that we can't live without. Living there for several years meant that we were always doing what we could to save water. This could be seen in normal behaviors like not letting the faucet run unnecessarily, and not so normal, some would say weird, ways like following the adage, "If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down," when using the toilet. This was an easy way to save several gallons a day when it worked, and a shocking way to gross out your guests when the kids forget to flush altogether as a result. Employing these water-saving methods, our family of 5, plus occasional guests, could make a 3,000-gallon tank of water last for 6 weeks or so. We thought we were pretty good at water conservation. That was until we moved onto a boat and sailed to the Bahamas. You don't realize how much water you actually use until you are sitting at anchor with 5 other people using the same 100-gallon water holding tank. Or when you pull up to a Bahamian marina and learn that, unlike the free water you enjoyed in Florida, you will now be paying as much as 50 cents a gallon for it. 50 cents a gallon times 100 gallons, and you've got $50, which you could easily burn through in a day. Instead of $100 a month in the mountains, we could easily spend $1,000 a month if we didn't keep our water use in check. That is when you go from a decent water conservationist to a water Nazi. You make your family take saltwater showers where you soap up in salt water and only use the precious fresh water for a quick rinse. You find yourself joyfully running outside in a rainstorm to scrub the deck for free. And if you are in your early days of cruising with no real grasp of how you will financially sustain this liveaboard life for the long haul, you may even find yourself resorting to desperate measures you will later regret. Hypothetically speaking, when your budget is extra tight and you just spent more than you could really afford on the slip fees, you may sneak over to the adjacent dock with a hose in the middle of the night to pilfer a little of that overpriced water so your family can cook, wash dishes, and shower the next day. I'm only speaking hypothetically here, of course. But the good news is that you don't always have to pay through the nose or violate your ethical values in order to stay properly hydrated and clean when you are living on a boat. Thankfully, there is a miraculous invention called a water maker. A water maker is usually something that doesn't come standard when you buy a boat, but is one of those aftermarket add-ons that is worth its weight in gold. It is a system that literally turns seawater into drinking water. Seriously miraculous, right? On the Dawn Treader, we had a Cruise RO water maker. It was installed by Nathan, Ziva, and a friend after we moved aboard. That wonderful system produced about 30 gallons of fresh water every hour. Although I was hesitant at first, fearing I might break this complicated, fragile system, I learned how to run the water maker even when Nathan wasn't on the boat, which took so much pressure off everyone whenever he had to head back to work for a week or so. It's hard for me to imagine how our family of 5+ would have been able to live on a boat without a water maker, although we met many families who did just that. Generally, those families would use large water jugs or jerry cans, which they brought to shore in their dinghies and find a spigot to fill them. I never really asked them how that worked for a family with kids, but I have a feeling they would put us water maker and marina water dependent cruisers to shame. It's hard to imagine anyone as water stingy as I am. Even after I've been off the boat for a year and a half, I still get the shakes whenever I see people wasting water. I can't tell you how many land-based friends and family I have witnessed, perfectly wonderful people who care about the environment, literally walking away from the sink with the water faucet open full force. They might have been washing dishes and remembered they needed to take something out of the fridge to defrost. Instead of closing the faucet before walking over to the other side of the kitchen where the fridge is, they just let it run. I just can't. It has taken all my strength on more than one occasion to not say something. Most of the time, I would reach over and quickly turn off the faucet while their back was turned. This usually elicited an annoyed reaction to the effect of, "I'm not finished with the water yet." I just explain apologetically that it's a holdover from living on a boat. I tell them how it kills me to see the water running because water is such a precious commodity that we need to conserve while living on a boat. Usually they respond that they should be more mindful about that too. Back here on land, I'm keenly aware of how easy it is to become lax on water conservation when we don't see any tangible consequence. On a boat, the consequences are clear and immediate. If we use too much water, we have to haul it jug by jug in the dinghy or wait for hours while we make more. Well, there are lots of great discussions going on in the world relating to climate change and taking personal responsibility for our emissions. People who move from houses to boats are forced to reduce their own environmental footprints one shower at a time. And that is chapter 8 of Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. I hope you enjoyed that chapter. I am here and I see somebody is here live with me. So feel free to put a comment in and I will be able to see it here live in the studio. But let me just kind of tell you, I'm probably going to record next week. So I'll just air it same time, noon on Tuesdays, Mountain Standard Time. Actually, it's Mountain Daylight Time right now. And I just like to read a chapter a week of this book because it keeps me accountable. I also wanted to mention that I am really actively, I went to that writers conference in Sevilla, in Spain, and I have been really actively writing like crazy. I'm working on a series of novels, actually. I've already finished one of the novellas, and I've got 2 novels that I'm writing. The character is a television news reporter, shocking, like my old career. And It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. So I hope you'll follow me along for the ride. And if you want to see more of my writing, you can look in the show notes, and I have a link to my Substack, which is where I share more kind of the loose writing. And I also share the written version of these chapters in my Substack. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I have more to share with you about my writing journey in the coming weeks and months. Thanks for checking out my live stream. I'm Rosa Linda Román. See you later.